you hear those Letitia James comments, because you've been pretty outspoken about all of this and what it might mean for New York and businesses in the recent days. The idea of, you know what, we might seize his assets.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, what do you make of that?
So you remember, I have to look at all of this through the lens of being an investor.
Right.
So I don't make money with politics, I make money with policy. So I care about policy. Now, one of the reasons that the United States of America is the magnet for so much sovereign wealth from all around the world is our law, is our justice system, and the perceived fairness of it in every state. And so if you're going to put billions of dollars to work somewhere in the world, the most coveted place to do it is in the United States of America. That is the brand of America. That's what it is. You don't really want to mess with that. You really want to make sure, no matter who you are, and this is not about Trump, this is not about politics, it's about what is America and capital and capitalism. And what does it mean when all of a sudden this starts to happen in any state? Forget about New York. Seizing assets happens in many countries where you wouldn't want to put your money. When the government can just decide, look, no monies were lost in a case, a rogue judge, in my view, that's a rogue settlement and should be reviewed, and it will be through the appellate courts. And remember, there's extreme cases where the Supreme Court came through and said, no, this is so offside. BMW had a case, I think, in the late 60s where they fixed that from the Supreme Court level. So I'm assuming this case is getting so much international scrutiny, it doesn't make you feel very good as an investor to watch this happen.
Are businesses pulling out? Like,
no,
what's the chatter?
This has only happened in the last week.
Right, of course.
So we're all, first of all, developers are asking themselves, okay, does this mean if I put $1 billion in the ground in a development, and I do data centers, so I spend up to $3.6 billion in the ground, and I need really stable policy. I have to be in partnership with the state, has to be, because you're talking about very long-term contracts. If I have to choose to put a data center in a state that has power, New York has power, New York has fiber, those are the two things you need, but you also need policy and stable government. They have 2 out of 4. So I go to other states now. I don't take the risk, but the great people of New York, and I have to say that because one of my kids lives there. I go to New York City all the time. Don't you think they're asking themselves, what's happening to us? What's going on here, regardless of your politics? I mean, I'm not the only person putting up my hand saying, wow, this is really starting to get crazy.
Here was Letitia James when asked, you know, about the idea of maybe some businesses are going to start pulling out. Here's what she said. Watch.
And last I checked, tourism is up, and Wall Street is doing just fine.
Wall Street's doing just fine, Kevin. She says essentially there's going to be no consequences from all of this.
No, listen, I always support leadership, and I believe in the electoral process and what we do. I would just, as if I were living in New York and I was paying taxes in New York, because taxes are very uncompetitive in New York. That's not me. That's everybody. That's why thousands of people move to Texas and Florida and Tennessee. That's just happening anyway. It's nothing to do with me. But I would ask myself, have I hired the best management I can get for my state? Because I have to live here after these politicians are gone. Maybe I want to review the managers, because I think the management of New York, the city and the state, are not the best that people could hire. And that's a policy guy. I would hire better managers.
So what about the politics of this, Chris?
First of all, I love you. But I'm going to attack you now. A lot of people's grandparents in 1978, 79, 80 were saying the exact same thing you were doing, and they stopped investing in New York, and now they're living in some poor retirement community down in Florida because they should have bought condos and commercial real estate in New York.
Not so
because
poor
New York
anymore.
is a great, New York is a great state to be and do business in. And
in case you don't know, Kevin, he was a former aide to Chuck Schumer. Go on, I'm sorry.
So second, look, this didn't have to go down this way. Trump could have settled this a long time ago for a much smaller fee. His attorneys could have been more competent in court and maybe checked the jury box on there so they had a jury trial. And maybe they could have controlled their client and had him behave in court. Yeah, I think that this might get pared down a little bit at the appellate division, but I don't think it was unfair. And if we're going to talk about the rule of law being important to investors in the United States, it's got to apply equally to everyone.
So what about Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.